Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Welcome aboard Truly Expat Travel, where we're ditching the guidebooks, fastening our seatbelts, and diving into real stories from travellers who have traded the ordinary for the extraordinary, proving the world really is too big to be left unexplored. Today's episode is just me. It's just me. And I'm going to talk to you about, strangely enough, Singapore, because that's exactly where I am right now. I'm in Singapore. And I just want to bring you to Singapore. My goal about Singapore is that I really want people to make it a destination rather than just a stopover, because people go, my God, it's such a small little country. Yeah, it is. It's a city-state or a city country, which not many countries, there's not many of those countries around the world. That's what I meant to mean. But what I want to kind of go through is tell you that there is so much to do, more than just a 2-day stopover. And I've got some questions here that I'm going to ask myself to prompt, which I'll be asking all my guests this season. I've got some really exciting destinations, some that are, there's a lot of expats there, and some aren't. Some are really exciting destinations that you go, okay, I need to Google, where is that? So yeah, anyway, let's start with Singapore, because everyone knows where Singapore is. And my first question is, let's start with the expat journey. What brought me to Singapore? And how long have I been living here? Well, I have lived here almost 8 years. I cannot believe it. March will make it 8 years. So it's been one of those places that, most people know that I have been living in Asia for 19 years. And normally, it's always been my husband's job that takes us from place to place. And I have a type of business that I can live anywhere because it's online. So, but living in Singapore, I now have a destination website solely about Singapore. So if you're coming to Singapore, I do lots of reviews or places to go or things to see. And I have a team here, which makes it even more special. So when I'm not here, I've got a whole group of beautiful women who are expats, and they are traveling around, going to events and things that are on, reviewing places for me now. So so for those who want to know, it's called Singapore Truly, and it basically has everything there is to know about Singapore. So that's how long I've been here. I've been here, did I just say? Yeah, 8 years. My brain's not with it, but yeah, I've almost been here 8 years, and I love it. Singapore's a great destination. It's one of those very easy destinations for someone who speaks English, because they have 4 languages here, but English is the main language. So it's an easy place. So every place I've lived before, besides Hong Kong, even though Hong Kong English isn't their first language, but you can get by a lot easier than, other places that I've lived. What would you say Singapore is famous for, and what are some of the best known attractions or areas of interest that visitors should know about? Well, let's start with the fact that Singapore is known for not only being the little red dot, but it's also famous for Marina Bay Sands. It's famous for, Singapore. I don't know if anyone knows this. What I think it's famous for is the Singapore chili crab. So if you haven't tried it, or if you've been here before and you've tried it, you'll understand why it's amazing. I love seafood, so and it's not too spicy, so it's just the perfect kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Balance of hot and delicious. That's my opinion. It's also famous for the F1 at the moment. I think we've got another few years before it leaves here. But at the moment, F1 is huge. The amount of people that come here each year just for the F1 in October, is amazing. It's also famous for being quite a clean country. And, because you can't have chewing gum here, you can't smoke e-cigarettes. It's also a city of fines. So all those things that people tell you about, yeah, it is. It's low crime because of that. The fines are big, so people have to understand that that's why we have such a clean, safe country. It's one of those places where I can walk home from dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning on my own, and I do not have to worry at all. It's one of those very safe countries. So if you're a female and you really want to travel or dip your toe into Asia as a solo traveler, start with Singapore. It is so safe. It really is. So it's also well known for Sentosa Island. So Sentosa Island is just full of activities, from bungee jumping to Universal Studios to, it's got a casino on there. It's on the water, so there's a few beach clubs. It's a really good place to go for people, families with kids. So if you are traveling with kids, I would say break it up. I would say do like 5 days in Sentosa and 5 days on the main island, because they're so different and there's so much to do on both. When's the best time to visit, and what's one essential thing visitors should pack that might not think of? Okay, best time to travel here. I am completely opposite to what other people are going to tell you. I think the rainy season is so much better because it cools the place down. For those who have traveled through Asia, especially Southeast Asia, the humidity is insane. It really is. You don't realize and you cannot understand how hot and how humid it gets here unless you have experienced it, because it really is hot. And so if you are walking around the street, because it is a walkable city and I walk everywhere, but if you are hot and sweaty and you want to go from A to B, it's tough. So public transport's your best friend and it's super cheap. There's a lot of air conditioning. So I would suggest coming in the rainy season, and I would bring an umbrella. That would be the one tip that I give everyone, and I'll tell you why. One is because it's when you're here in the sun, when it's in the middle of summer. Well, it's always summer, but say it's here in July or June or whatever. It blocks you from the sun. It makes a huge difference with an umbrella. I have become Singaporean because I walk around with an umbrella everywhere. And it also doubles as if the weather turns bad, because you can get a rainfall like just out of nowhere, and it can just be, and it's heavy. When it's monsoon, it's heavy rain. So you can be drenched in 5 minutes and then it's sunshine again. So I would say bring an umbrella, and bring, like, if you're going to go to, like, for dinner inside a restaurant, bring something that might cover your shoulders if you're female, just because it gets cold. The air conditioning's like so cold, so it gets really, really cold. Okay, so number 5 is souvenirs. So forget the touristy stuff. What's the perfect souvenir that actually captures the spirit of the place, and where should you buy it? Go and buy it. Okay, I tell everyone this. There is a place called Binary Styles, and it is beautiful. What they have, so there's 2 sisters, they're twins, and they used to be architects. And what it is it's a boutique that has these beautiful prints, like scarves and umbrellas. They've got a whole lot of different things that you can purchase there. Like, I think they're called, I don't even know what they're called, but they're like a handkerchief, not a handkerchief, not a handkerchief, a scarf, like a silk scarf that turns into like a shawl. So it's really good for when it's cold out inside the air conditioning. But the prints are all architecturally beautiful places in Singapore, and they make the perfect gift. Every person I've given it to, or any person who sees me wearing one or sees the print, is like, wow, where did you get that? They are just beautiful and very, very thought out. And these 2 girls are so beautiful. You go into the shop and they're just so lovely. They will help you with, trying things on, or they've got like these jumpsuits. Last time I was in there, I think they're classed as jumpsuits, but they've got a whole lot of stuff. That is, to me, a hidden gem, because it's something you can take back that is easy to fold, and you can, put in your suitcase. It won't be too heavy, because I find with souvenirs you just end up really heavy suitcase. So especially if you're limited and you're going to be traveling further on, it's so lightweight and people love them. Honestly, I recommend them to everybody. 6, looking back to when you first arrived, what's one insider tip you wish you'd known from day one? Something that would have made you feel like a local rather than an outsider. I don't know about this one because I think I was coming here for many years before I moved here, especially when I was in KL because I would stop over here for a day or two before I moved. I went to Sydney to see the kids. So I don't know if there's anything that I would say I really needed to know, but I would highly suggest using the public transport, and I tell you why. I think for the first 5 years, I don't think I ever caught a bus or a train, anything. And if I did, it was very, very rarely. So I would highly recommend getting on the buses and jumping on the double decker buses and sitting right up the top because it's like you have your own tour, and for very cheap. It's so cheap. And also, it allows you to see a little bit more than them. Don't go in the MRTs because the MRT, unless you really have to get from A to B, and it's the only way to get there, I would suggest the buses because you get to see what's around and how small the place is. Because then you go, you can walk from A to B. That's so close. I didn't realize that, Chinatown was really that close to Orchard Road or whatever, right? Because we walk everywhere here. I guess that's the other thing is that walking everywhere because you can. Because even if it's raining, there's a lot of over the cover, like covered over areas that you can walk along on the streets. Makes it life a little bit easier, especially if it's hot or if it's raining. The other thing is download your Grab app. Grab is like an Uber because you can't get Ubers here, because that will be important. Because on those busy rainy days, you will need to maybe catch a Grab, and sometimes you don't want to be hot and sweaty. So getting a Grab makes life so much easier, especially if you're going out to a restaurant and you're all dolled up. You don't get there sweaty. So the Grab app is I think, very Singaporean. But what people don't tell you is there's another app called Gojek. And so Gojek is the Indonesian uh, Uber equivalent. And so what we tend to do here, or I tend to do especially, is that I would check on Gojek first, and then I would check on Grab for the price. And usually you can sometimes it's $10 difference. So that is something that people didn't tell me. I'd been here quite a while before people kind of like I knew about it. And what does a typical local meal look like? And where would you recommend buying it? There are a particular restaurant, street food store, or market that become your go-to favorite. This is a hard one. Singapore is foodie heaven. So if you're into food, like really into food, you will love Singapore. The hawker markets, you have to go to Lapau Sat just because it's probably the most famous hawker market here in Singapore, as it is the oldest hawker market here in Singapore too. And of a night time, Satay Street, they close off the street and it becomes one like eating area, and it's got a great vibe. So I would definitely highly recommend going there just for the feel of the place. But if you want really good like hawker food, anywhere, anywhere, and it's cheaper outside of big places like that. Newton is also very popular. That's where they shot Crazy Rich Asians. That's for a hawker center, but also there's hawker centers everywhere. Maxwell's in Chinatown has some Michelin star food, food stalls. So does the one across the road in Chinatown. That's another one upstairs. They've got beautiful dumplings and stuff like that. The thing also here that people don't realize is that because you've got three cultures, you've got the Malay food, you've got the Chinese food, and you also have the Indian food. And because it's so diverse, so it really depends on what type of food you like. But if you're going to go to a Michelin star restaurant, by far my favorite is Burnt Ends, but you have to book way in advance, maybe 3 months in advance. It is spectacular. It's by far my favorite restaurant here. That is a little different. It's more international. My favorite restaurant, if you go to Dempsey Hill, is another secret. That's a very local place. Lots of people go there. There's loads of restaurants. It's an old army barracks, and so that's now a huge amount of restaurants. What my favorite restaurant there, so Burnt Ends is there obviously, but my other favorite restaurant is Chop Suey. So there is a chain here called PS Cafe, and PS Cafe also owns Gypsy, which is another favorite of mine in Marina Bay, and that is fusion Japanese and Mexican, I think. I think it is. And Chop Suey is, I love the architecture. Like I love the interior. It's that old British colonial style, and it's got fusion Asian, which is, I just love that place. I would take visitors there. The other places I would suggest, it really depends on the food that you're after, right? So obviously you go down to India. Little India's got some great Indian local restaurants, like Banana Leaf is a chain that's down there that's cheap, it's easy, it's delicious Indian food. Or you go to places like, obviously Chinatown, which I was saying before, got some great hawker centres there. But you have Michelin-star restaurants here too, right? So if you go to somewhere like Odette, which is in the top 10 in the world best restaurants, it's a French restaurant, and that's, again, it's months in advance. What I would suggest is going to figure out what kind of restaurant you want to go to, and then just Googling, because there are so many restaurants. Like I said before, Gypsy is one of my favorite for looking over Marina Bay. In terms of bars, there's obviously going to Marina Bay Sands is where everyone says to go to, but I actually like looking over at the Marina Bay Sands. There's a bar, a rooftop bar across the road, Lantern, which is on the top of Fullerton Bay, and there's one next door. There's a bar next door, rooftop bar called Kinky, like a Japanese style rooftop bar. They have the best views of the whole Marina Bay because you get to look at Marina Bay. That's where I tend to take people rather than on top of Marina Bay Sands on Delay. You know what? My favourite rooftop bar actually is Mr. Stork. I don't think you can book there, so go early, and the view from up there is amazing. That is my favourite rooftop bar. If you're planning the perfect 3-day itinerary in Singapore, not for tourists, but for a friend visiting you, what would those 3 days look like? Take us through it from must-see highlights to those local experience-only expats would know about. I've written a lot of itineraries about Singapore. I actually do consultations as well. So I've written a lot of itineraries for people and consulted and what they'd like. So it's really hard to say because there's so much to do in what type of person you are. So I'm going to pretend that the person would be someone like me, right? I'm come here as a solo traveler, and I wanted to spend 3 days in Singapore. I would start by going to Raffles. If you want to stay in a beautiful hotel, it has been voted as one of the top 10 best hotels in the world. Raffles is beautiful. So if you can afford to stay in Raffles, yay. But if you can't, definitely book in for the high tea or go to the Raffles Long Bar and have a Singapore sling because that's where it originated from. Have a look around the grounds. Singapore coffee that's in the grounds there is also really cool to try out. I would then go across the road to Chimes, which is an old monastery, but it is now a whole lot of restaurants, so it's quite pretty. It's got that old charm. There's a beautiful church across the road, so you can have a look at that. There are a lot of old churches here as well with all different denominations. So looking around, that kind of area, then you could walk from there to Marina Bay and then have a look around Marina Bay Sands. You have to go to Marina Bay Sands because it's quite nice. And it is also a great place to shop, but it is expensive. It's more expensive it's got every shop known to man, but it is a little bit more expensive. If you are a coffee lover, then Batcha Coffee has a beautiful little cafe there. It's a Moroccan style cafe, but it is lovely. It's got hundreds of different types of coffee, and it's got you can have lunches there as well, but it does have beautiful little cakes and things like you would find in France. But you can take away as well. If you take away, it's got a beautiful little little cup that it comes in, and it's got the honey that is on a stick, and you dip in, and it's got clotted cream rather than milk. So it's a whole experience. And then you could go across to the Gardens by the Bay and you have a look around there. My whole day would be kind of looking around that area. There is also the museum there. And if you get to go to the museum, if you go up to the rooftop of the museum, which doesn't cost you anything, you can go into the museum and most of it's free except for the exhibition. So you can have a look downstairs into the old law courts, and the cells are still there from back in the day, which is you can just go wandering around and you go to the rooftop. It has the best view, I think, of the whole of Singapore. It's beautiful. So that would be my first day, and then go and have dinner down at Marina Bay. Whether you go to Gypsy, which I mentioned before, or PS Cafe is there as well. So if you just want to have something light, you can go into Marina Bay. There is some restaurants inside Marina Bay, there's some really nice restaurants actually. And then you can end up going back to Gardens by the Bay and do the 8 o'clock. I think it's 8:15 and 7:15 and 8:15, something like that. But I'll put it all in the show notes. That you have 2 light shows. So that can be your first day. Day 2, I'd go to Sentosa. Spend the whole day in Sentosa. You can do heaps of free stuff. You can do a jungle walk there, and then you can even walk across over and do the cable cars, and then do like Henderson Wave and stuff like that. They also have a fort there that's free to walk around and have a look at. It's part of history. You can go for a swim in the ocean. You can sit on the beach. You can also do a whole lot of paid things as well, right? So you can go and do the luge. Can't remember the name of it, luge, and then you can do treetops. There's bungee jumping. There's like a kind of like an amusement, I guess, up the park, kind of up the top. You've got Universal Studios. You have aquarium, water park. There is so much to do. So I would spend a whole day in Sentosa. And then day 3 for me would be, there's a couple of options, but I would suggest you can get a ferry and you can do some islands in Singapore. So you can go island hopping, and you can go to what they have, like 3 islands. So there's the Three Sisters, there is Lazarus, and another one that's just can't think of the name of it, but you buy the ferry ticket, you can stop off at those, and you take a packed lunch, and you can sit on the beach, go for a swim in the water. It's so clean and beautiful there. You can go walking around Three Sisters, I think it's called, and it has a whole like a marine park there. So a lot about, the area and the marine life. So I would spend the 3rd day looking at that, and in the evening I'd go to Dempsey Hill and splurge at. You could either go to the seafood place, and have the chili crab, or you could go to Burnt Ends, or you could try. Actually, there's so many restaurants there, or you could do the chop suey one that I suggested. They would be my 3 full days. I've got heaps of other days and other things that you can do, but they would be my 3 days of what I would do. So those spots that locals guard, like Precious Secrets. What's your favourite neighbourhood or area that doesn't make it into the guidebooks but absolutely should? I would say I really like River Valley. I'm a little bit biased, but the area itself is beautiful. So if you go along and have a look at Robertson Quay, there's some really cute little cafes and restaurants there. And even if you walk off the side streets, it's just really pretty. You've got loads and loads of health retreats like ice baths and health centres, and you've got beautiful restaurants and bars. I like River Valley, and River Valley is very local, so lots and lots of expats as well that live there. But it's not somewhere you would normally go if you might go to Robertson Quay. You might go, actually, to be fair, you probably go as far as Clark Quay. And what people don't realise is if you walk from the city, like Marina Bay Sands,
if you walk all the way along the canal from Boat Quay, Clark Quay, Robertson Quay, and then you keep walking Alexander canals, it just keeps going. There's some beautiful little areas along there, but I really like Robertson Quay, and I really like kind of River Valley area, but people don't really talk about it unless you live here. And if you're looking to live here, that's a place where most people would look at to reside, because it's so easy to get to places. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's me. I've been rambling. Is that even a word? Rambling on for like 30 minutes. So I think that's going to be my first episode on Singapore. I'm going to venture back in Singapore, maybe down the track or something, because I think there's so much more to talk about. I've just kind of scratched the surface of things to do. But in the meantime, if you are interested in knowing more, you can have a look on my website, Singapore Truly, or on my social medias platforms, or even you can message me and I can do a consultation for you or write an itinerary. So reach out and contact me. But until next time, thanks again for listening, and welcome back to Truly Expat Travel Podcast Season 2. And I hope to see you again next week.
Thank you for joining me on the Truly Expat Travel Podcast. If you liked this episode and you found it valuable, then why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode moving forward. I've got some amazing guests and some fantastic destinations coming up. But if this is the episode and this is the destination that you really want to go to, then I suggest you head over to trulyexpattravel.com, where you'll find travel guides and deep dive into this sort of destination. If that's not what you want and you can't find an episode that is a destination you want to travel to, then head over and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, because I'm pretty sure you'll find something there. In the meantime, safe travels, and I'll see you next week. Cabin crew be seated and ready for takeoff.